Welcome to another episode of Ready.Set.Midmarket, the podcast for mid-market IT senior leaders. I'm Samara Lynn, the senior editor of MES Computing, and usually I'm joined by my co-host Adam Dennison, the vice president of mid-size enterprise services at the channel company. But Adam is prepping for our big event in Florida next week. We're having a MES IT Security Summit. So he's got a lot on his plate right now, but we didn't want to miss the opportunity to speak with you, Ron Reiter. You're the CTO and co-founder of Sentra. And I'd like to kick off by just having you tell us a little bit about yourself and telling us a little bit of the audience about Sentra for those who don't know.
Sure. Thanks. My name is Ron. I'm the CTO and co-founder of Sentra, a data security platform company. So Sentra basically is a tool to look for sensitive data and to ensure that it is secure. We help organizations build their data loss prevention programs, achieve compliance on data regulations, data access governance, and so forth. About 100 employees. We've raised over $100 million.
This topic is about mid-market CIOs priorities for 2026. And we've done a lot of coverage on this subject, Ron. And one of the things that keeps coming up from IT leaders like yourself and thought leaders is that you cannot implement AI without having a good, solid data strategy. So I think that's where it's an ideal conversation for us to speak. And as you know, CIOs right now, they're under pressure to prove ROI from their AI. They have to reduce their risk and they have to simplify their tech stacks. Out of those, what is the first A in ABC that a mid-market CIO needs to prioritize to launch a successful AI project, in your opinion?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think we've noticed that in the last couple of years, we've turned into an AI security company. We weren't when we started Sentry, we weren't starting an AI security company. We were starting a data security company. So what happened in the market is that it's an interesting thing with AI. So when an organization wants to use AI responsibly, the number one thing that pops up right away is that AI is basically an accelerator for how your data security program should already be applied. What I mean by that is when you're a CISO and you care about your data security program to a certain extent, now there's suddenly this amazing technology that can mine your data in the best way possible, which is huge for productivity, but it's also a very, very, very big risk from security because it under basically underlines it really emphasizes where your data security is not tied up, right? And correctly set up. So in the sense, let's take an example. There might be in an organization, any organization, right? Sometimes people would have maybe a public document to the internet, or maybe a document that is shared with everyone in the organization that has salaries of employees, right? Or something like that. Obviously sensitive data, but nowadays it's not really an issue because if you don't have the link to that document, people don't really notice that it exists. But suddenly, now that there's this thing called AI and you activate it and it goes and indexes all of your corporate organization according to the permission map and the access governance that you set up originally, right? Which you should have done that correctly.
Right.
Now, suddenly every attacker can ask a bunch of very, very simple questions like, give me all the salaries of people in the organization, right? A very simple question. You can ask 100 questions like that. And your AI agents will just directly go and collect that information from everywhere around the organization. And that would be an immediate threat to the organization just because someone enabled Copilot, right?
Right.
And what I'm trying to basically say here is that if you want to enable AI responsibly, you have to have your data security program also set up in a way that is perfect, right? You have to make sure that no document is accessible to people who should not have access. You have to
Right.
make sure that no model can read information that it's not supposed to. And that's a data security problem, right?
Right. Right. Let me ask you this, and I'm just going to go off the script a little bit, just, because I've been in IT for a lot of years and now I'm working in this capacity more as an end user. We got a license for AI to use throughout our organization. One of the things I wanted AI to do was to help me manage my folders and my inbox, but it doesn't have permissions for that. Is there a way where you can lock down AI and data too much that it inhibits your employees?
Course, I think, that's really what the strategy of the CISOs is now right now. That's what they're doing. They
Yeah,
are because they don't
I love
have
that.
right.
Right.
So if you don't have a tool, I mean, I'm sorry for overselling here, but if you don't have a tool like Sentra, then sometimes it would be easier for a CISO to say, all right, I'm just locking down all of this environment, no AI for anyone,
Yeah.
and that's it. That's how I'm going to deal with it because I know that there's sensitive data there. That hurts productivity, right?
Yeah.
If you want to enable productivity and at the same time make sure that your organization is actually secure, you have to have a tool that knows how to differentiate between sensitive data and data that is something you want to make available for everyone in the organization. And that's what Central does, right? So we're able to classify sensitive data in multiple ways and make sure that it's tagged accordingly so that it won't be available to those AI models and potentially a data breach could happen.
Because really now I used to be data is the new oil. Now it's like data is the new attack surface, right? Because
That
you
that
have you're letting all these AI components into your organization. Um, is that why data visibility should it be one of the top CIO priorities this year?
for 2026 for sure. I
Mhm.
mean, we were always trying to echo to the world how data security is a big problem, mostly because of how cloud is adopting, right? So the
Right.
adoption of the cloud was very apparent in the last 5 years, and we were seeing a lot of organizations go and migrate a lot of data there, and then the data security posture needs to be maintained. But
Right.
I think AI has been accelerating this 100 times because everyone is trying to use AI. Everyone is trying to, hook it up to the cloud, not only, right? And then you have to get your data security program ready by the time that the AI program is ready. So that's kind of what we're seeing across the market.
So, and again, you're obviously you work for a vendor, and I know you can apply this to your company, but just generally overall, broad. I'm a mid-market IT director. I got a staff of like 5 to 10 people, have a limited budget. My CFO, my CEO, they're like, we need this AI project implemented ASAP. How do I go and collect, even though I'm a mid market organization, how do I go through decades of data cost effectively and get it prepared for an AI project?
That's a great question. So we sell to both enterprises and mid-market companies, and we see a lot of difference between those two, right? So enterprise companies usually have a data teams that go and have, they have a role of classifying all the data in the company for multiple use cases, and this is what they do, right? So we go and solve a technical problem there. But for mid-market organizations who don't have any data security program and need to be prepared with AI, so we're basically giving them a very simple solution, which is a data loss prevention solution, with a DLP, a cloud DLP solution. And we're just saying something very simple, right? You need to have a tool that will go and classify all of your data wherever it is, right? Let's say I'm 365, right? Once you classify all your data and you understand it and you know what is sensitive and what is not, what Sentra will do, or basically any data security platform, is it will tag the data automatically and make sure that that piece of information won't be available to those AI models, right? So in that sense, you don't really have to have a person that is working 24/7, resolving issues, reading tickets, trying to figure out how to set up things, right? It's basically a tool that you need to identify the sensitive data and block it from going in continuously to those models. That is one example, right? But that is the ultimate problem that the CISOs in 2026 are hitting right now when they're being told, "Hey, we want Copilot. Hey, we want AI. We want Gemini. We want to be productive, and we want to put this on our corporate data, maybe ChatGPT Enterprise or whatever, right? And we want to do it responsibly."
Right. So Centra is you're more around the data security, and sometimes you probably work with some quite a few CISOs, security officers, and executives. Um, what we found in some of our coverage is sometimes there's friction between the CIO and the CISO. Their goals aren't often in alignment. Is that something you've seen with customers you've worked with, like the CIO and the CISO have different goals and some clashes? And how have you resolved that?
So I think there's different goals of CIOs and CISOs, mostly because CIOs usually care about getting the organization more productive, whereas CISOs have basically the role of making it less productive but more secure,
Right.
right? And that's really what it's all about, right? If you look at one side saying, "Hey, I want to make the organization more productive," right? That's their goal. Not only the CIOs, it's sometimes the R&D, sometimes it's chief data officers, many different roles. But there's always this person who says, "I want to enable AI and I want to enable the organization to run faster." And then there's always a balance, right? Those checks and balances between the governance, risk, compliance functions that their goal is to make the organization more secure, and they always will come on the expense of productivity, right? And you want to make sure is that while you make your organization more productive, you want to make sure that stays as secure as it is
Right.
productive, but at the same time you don't want to hurt productivity, right?
Right. It's again, it's like this kind of catching up act, this balancing act,
Exactly.
between being progressive and, productive and staying secure and reducing risk. It really is kind of like, to me, that in a nutshell is a priority for CIOs in 2026. How do we stay competitive and stay secure?
Exactly. So, and
Yeah.
the way we see it is that you need to acknowledge it. The customer, our
Right.
customer, right,
Right.
understands nowadays that with technology, it is possible to run both fast and secure at the same time, right?
You are the CTO and co-founder of Sentra, which really specializes in data security and has this AI forward approach to that. So I'm going to introduce before you wrap up on lightning round, which is going to come to surprises Adam when he comes back. But I want to do like a just quick questions for our guests. What I would like to ask you is, what is the one metric that you think CIOs in the mid market should stop relying on in 2026?
Should stop relying on.
Stop relying on.
Oh wow. So I think 2026 it's it's a transition between AI eras, right? And I think they need to not optimize on choosing the right tools. I think the tools are changing so fast that it really doesn't matter. Just get something, try it out. Don't try to over optimize. Whatever works works. Whatever doesn't, doesn't.
Well, and then leading to that, what is the one question that you, as a vendor, successful company, what is the one question do you think mid-market CIOs should ask you guys more?
Well, I mean, it's a cliche, but like,
There's no wrong answers.
how do you run fast while staying secure?
Okay. All right. Well, we'll leave it with that then. All right. Well, I want to thank you so much, Ron. Thank you very much for your time. And definitely tune in to our episode of the great information for mid market CIOs with our guest, the CTO and co founder of Sentra. And thank you all for joining us today. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.